Hello, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, and everybody outside. Welcome to week 3 of the Pokeaim Community Draco VGC Cup. As usual, I am your host, Hylian, and I am joined by my usual co-commentator host, Talon.
What's going on, Highland? Today is going to be an awesome tournament run because after all these incredible matchups in all of our pools, we have a bracket to talk about.
We do. We are down to the top 28 competitors of the Draco Cup, and I have actually been handed a bracket courtesy of our wonderful tournament organizer, PK, that we can quick go through while we are waiting for our first competitors to get ready. So, let's bring that over into view, shall we?
Let's see that bracket for everybody, including me.
So, we can see here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, or rather attempt to. We have our top 28, and of the matches we've already got, we can see we've got a few that have already been done. Cookie has beaten Sigu, Tune 1, has secured himself in the top 2, or rather into round 2. We already have a couple of matchups already determined as well, being stuff like Genesis against Vanilla is already locked in. Furt Jesus against Hyperlink, Niem against Obi, Kalarsi against Yelt Tight. So we've got a handful of matches that have already been done. We've still got a few that we're waiting to see the outcome of, including some that are going to be happening today on stream, such as Salvaria against Epics, which is actually going to be our first match, as well as Mopsichu against Ultimate, a few others as well. So this bracket is already well underway.
This bracket really is well underway, and I do want to shout out our players that did have a bye going into the top 16 for the Draco Cup, Highland. So that would have been Daniel, Genesis, Lug, and Niem. They all had a bye going into the top cup bracket. So they already made it to top 16 without having to face somebody in the top 32. But now we get to finalize some of their matchups, and that's going to be amazing to see.
That is correct. Also, I'm doing well, Silver. Hope you are too well. So we are really like it's oh god, someone said my username right on the first try. I mean, it is we're in for some electrifying battles. We've got 3 live battles and then 1 replay currently. This is going to be a shorter stream. So we're sort of just waiting a little bit here, fix a couple errors. So in the meantime, suppose I could just, do a funny real quick and see what trash the game gives me today.
Oh boy, I can't wait to see this, if I can see it.
Oh, right. I knew I was forgetting something. There we go. Knew I was forgetting something, just couldn't remember what.
All right, let's see what Highland gets. Anybody think it's going to be a shiny? Let's see. That might be a mark. Nope.
These are all garbage.
Well, I mean, Arcaludon, Scovillain, and Espathra are viable. Frostlass.
I just like making fun of the set sometimes here, because yes, imprison Gengar.
In all fairness, I did just face Imprison against a friend of mine earlier today, but That was not on Gengar. It was on Gardevoir.
Or Frisk Espathra.
Oh, hello.
They intentionally designed these things to make you waste your VP to change them. There's no way they don't. We're taking a Quillfish because it wants to blow up, and I think that's funny.
All right, Quillfish it is. Welcome to Team Highland.
Welcome to Team Highland. You don't get PTO. Have fun.
Do they get benefits, though, outside of PTO?
You get free healthcare. Ignore the fact that every Pokemon gets free healthcare.
A classic. I love it. But while we're getting set up for our top 32 match, Highland, I'm going to ask you this. What are you most looking forward to with the Pokemon World Championships coming up in 2 weeks from this stream?
I am looking forward to seeing what shenanigans people come up with. It's always fun to see the really unhinged teams that have frankly no right being there show up and somehow do well. Basically, what I'm saying is that I want another Season Park Pachirisu. Or equivalent. Just give me something completely unhinged.
Can I raise you an item that if we did it an hour in one of our preferred ways of battling, we would instantly lose the match?
Sure.
There was a trainer, Huyubari_Poke. I wish I remembered his name, like his real name. He was the 2019 world champion in the seniors division. He apparently won this offline tournament in Japan with Bright Powder Incineroar.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you know what? I did ask for unhinged, and yeah, that's pretty freaking unhinged.
Just a little bit, but it's also kind of cool to see when you think about it.
That is true. So, while we are waiting for participants to get ready, let's go over their team sheets real quick, if I can find...
Oh, it's Kosuke Day who won.
There we are.
I knew I recognized the screen name from somewhere. I just couldn't remember who it was. So Kosuke Day won this offline. I think it was called the Extreme Double or something like that. But yeah, he won with a Bright Powder Incineroar.
So I'm actually looking at the team sheets here because it looks like Clue's about to go in, and we're in for an interesting game because it looks like Epix here is bringing a Mega Camerupt team.
Oh yeah, you're right. We're looking at the team sheets right now, and that is a Mega Camerupt, but we also see that the Maushold is not Friend Guard. This is the Population Bomb Technician and Wide Lens Maushold. So people have to realize that Maushold with that Population Bomb, it can hit up to 10 times. And with the Wide Lens, it's almost guaranteed to hit 10 times. But at the same time, you have a Drampa that does not have its Drampa Knight. This is an Expert Belt and a Ally Switch Trick Room Spiritomb.
This is going to be very interesting.
You are absolutely right.
There's a lot of Mons here on these teams that we have not seen in any of the recaps before. So we're in for some fresh gameplay right off the bat.
Well, let's get into game one of our round of 32 matchup between Epix and Silvaria. Epix is going to lead Maushold and Farigiraf, and on the side of Silvaria, it is that Kamao and the Gardevoir. So Gardevoir traces the Armor Tail.
That is going to be very interesting. So now both sides have protection against priority. Just immediately. Won't really do a whole lot in this specific field. But that does limit the ability of King Gambit to come in with Sucker Punch if it wanted to.
You're absolutely right there, Highland. But it's also important to note that if Gardevoir were to Mega Evolve on this turn, it would lose the Armor Tail and go into the Pixelate. And that is what Silvaria is going for here. Mega Evolving their Gardevoir on the first turn of the battle. But now we have to see if the Gardevoir will be faster than that Maushold. It is. Goes for the Hyper Voice, boosted by Pixelate. That's a one-hit knockout with a critical hit.
The agency has fallen.
And Kamo gets to go for the Clanging Scale. Single target for Farigiraf, though, will survive the single target. Even through the Life Orb boost of the Kamo, gets to heal itself up with that Citrus Berry. Kamo will take a defensive drop. And Farigiraf gets to twist the dimensions. The Trick Room is up.
Alright, so Epix is now in a very interesting position. Trick Room is up, which means Camerupt can very easily come in, Mega Evolve, and start going to town with sheer force boosted eruptions, and it will be the fastest thing on this field. That's going to do heavy damage to everything.
It will be the fastest Pokemon on the field, but we also have to remember that Camerupt is the slowest Pokemon, and then Farigiraf would be the slowest Pokemon. If Camerupt doesn't pick up the knockout into something like that Kamo with the Eruption, then Farigiraf will be going next, and most likely could pick up the knockout with Psychic, and there's going to be the Mega Evolution. Camerupt is Mega Evolve.
See how much this Eruption is going to do. It's going to hurt. We see Como going for this Protect here just to try to save itself, as is Gardevoir. Which was the correct play. A single Eruption is all it would take to level this field at the moment.
The Eruption has come out, but thanks to the Protecting, there's no damage on Silvaria's side, and we do see Farigiraf try to go for the Psychic into the Kamo. So now, if you're Silvaria, this is going to be a very interesting turn of events. You do have that Camerupt out on your opponent's side of the field. Oh, Silvaria switching out the Kamo and bringing in Bascu Legion.
Camerupt's going for the Earth Power, just raw.
Farigiraf going for the Psychic. If the Earth Power didn't pick up the knockout, Psychic will. Bascu Legion knocked out of this battle. But now Gardevoir gets to go for the Pixelate boosted Hyper Voice. And Farigiraf will still survive it.
This Farigiraf is bulky, make no mistake about it.
Make no mistake about it, but also Eruption has just lowered some of its base power due to Gardevoir's Hyper Voice taking out 25% of Camerupt's HP. Now you have to figure, are you going to go for the Eruptions even though you lost some of the base power, or do you just go for the single target attacks as Kamo will return to the battlefield?
That is the correct question at this point. Now, Earth Power would do more to Kamo here, but Eruption should still do more to Gardevoir, given the amount of health that Camerupt currently has. It will be tricky to see which option Epix chooses to go for here. Silvaria very well could just stall this out with another double protect turn. He just needs to survive 2 more turns before Trick Room runs out, and odds are Farigiraf will not make it to
but we see the helping
reset
hand
those Trick Rooms.
The helping hand will come out. Kamo protects itself from any damage on this turn. Did Egg call this correctly? He did! The Earth Power with the helping hand to make a Gardevoir, but Gardevoir will survive it on 9%. Here comes the Hyper Voice out into the Camerupt, down to half, but the Farigiraf is knocked out.
That does mean this will be the final turn of Trick Room. There is no more setters.
A 4th and final Pokemon for Egg is revealed to be the King Gambit. Last turn of Trick Room. This Kamo could potentially run away with the game for Silvaria. It really comes down to how this final turn of Trick Room will be played as the King Gambit on Egg's side. This does have Kowtow Cleave and Sucker Punch, which will be doing good damage into the Kamo that just protected itself.
It will. However, we should not underestimate this Gardevoir. It might only be a 9%, but Pixelate Hyper Voice is hurt, even against things that are resistant.
And Gardevoir will protect itself from any damage on this turn. Let's see. As Camera will go for the Earth Power into the Kama-O, brings Kama-O low into the red, and Kingambit will go for the Brick Break into Kama-O, the double up, picking up the knockout into the Kama-O. We are down to the final 2 Pokemon on either side.
Alright, let's see what the final mon for Salvaria is. It's Lycanroc.
Okay, now you have a very interesting endgame here. The Lycanroc does have access to that Accelerock, which is boosted by the Tough Claws ability, Highland. But with it having that Focus Sash, it's guaranteed to live one attack from either the Kingambit or the Camerupt if it were to bring it and knock it out in one hit.
That is correct. Now, Accelerock is powerful, but is it powerful enough to knock out something like Camerupt in 2 turns? Probably not. And Camerupt really only needs 2 turns in order to kill with Earth Power. So...
And Lycanroc went for the close combat into the Kingambit, protecting itself. Here comes the Eruption. So Eruption is finally chosen by Egg outside of the Trick Room at half HP, but the damage has been done. Lycanroc's Focus Sash is officially broken.
Lycanroc now only needs to get hit by a single Earth Power to be knocked out of this match. But as the fastest thing currently on the field, it will not be going out without a fight.
You're absolutely right there, Highland. I am curious as to where the Lycanroc might try to target. Do you go into this Camerupt with something like Accelerock trying to call a Sucker Punch from the Kingambit into that Lycanroc slot, knowing that it just try to go for the close combat and knock out Kingambit in one shot?
Well, unfortunately, there is no real right answer here. You could target down the Camerupt in order to try to prevent more spread damage from Eruption. However, Kingambit is right there.
And the Sucker Punch does go into the Lycanroc. Egg with a great call out, going for the Sucker Punch, knocking out Lycanroc. And here's the Earth Power from the Mega Camerupt into the Mega Gardevoir in the Battle of Hoenn Pokemon. Egg takes game number 1.
Game 1 goes to Egg, but now we've got game 2 coming up. Will Salvaria turn this around?
That was a really fun Trick Room matchup there in game number 1 for Egg. Getting that Trick Room up early despite losing their mouse hold on the first turn of the battle, Highland, to that pixely boosted Hyper Voice with that critical hit as well. It kind of put Egg a little bit behind the 8 ball, so to speak there, don't you think?
I completely agree. It definitely was an interesting turn of events.
But that just showcases how Egg ran with their team by going with the Trick Room mode and getting that camera in a position to where it was still doing big damage with that Sheer Force boosted Earth Power. Yes, Eruption isn't boosted by the power of Sheer Force, but if you get a Helping Hand off, we saw how much damage Helping Hand Earth Power did into the Mega Gardevoir, almost getting a one-hit knockout.
We'll see if there's any changes being made on either side here. We could potentially see this Talonflame come out as a check option here for some other things. I'm not necessarily sure if Kingambit will come out on Salvaria's side. As long as that Camerupt's here, it's sort of a massive threat to its existence.
We did also see that in game 1, that Basculegion came in place of the Kama-O for Salvaria, and it took that Earth Power and Psychic that was going into the Kama-O. If Kama-O would have been knocked out early in that game 1, that would have been a really big comeback for Egg after losing their mousehold in that first turn. But it appears as though our trainers are getting set for game number 2. Will Egg move on to the top 16, or will Salvaria force a game 3 in this top 32 matchup? Egg is going to switch it up with the Farigiraf and the Spiritomb as the lead. And for Salvaria, it's Kama-O and Gardevoir. And Gardevoir tracing the Armor Tail again.
Now, last time we saw this didn't really matter because of the Turn 1 Mega Evolution. Will Salvaria choose to play things differently here? Spiritomb does gain access to its fair share of priority, it might be worth keeping Armor Tail active.
That is true. It does get its fair share of access to priority moves, but at the same time, Gardevoir, if you get that Mega Evolution off, you'll get that Pixelate ability, Highland. That's going to make Hyper Voice go from not doing any damage at all into Spiritomb to suddenly doing super effective damage with the Fairy type.
That is correct. We are going to see that Silvaria is choosing to Mega Evolve turn 1 here with Gardevoir, just like last game, and presumably is going to be clicking Hyper Voice. But we see Witness using Ally Switch. That's the first time we've seen that the entire Draco Cup.
The first Ally Switch, and the Hyper Voice will come out into the Gardevoir. That's still a one-hit knockout in a Spiritomb. Oh my damage, what a one-hit knockout. But now let's see what combo goes for. It's Draco Meteor this time, and not the Clanging Scales. Will this pick it up? No, it doesn't! Farigiraf on 1%, the huge survival!
Farigiraf getting that Citrus Berry, getting back up to 25%, getting that Trick Room up. Now, unfortunately, Spiritomb is no longer around to benefit from it. However, Egg does still have a potential King Gambit or Camerupt in the back, and we are going to see Camerupt come out right now and yet again benefit from this Trick Room.
What a survival there by the Farigiraf, Highland, on 1%. That allows Egg to get that Trick Room up, and Camerupt can suddenly Mega Evolve yet again.
That is correct. Now, Camerupt is in a prime position to Mega Evolve Eruption here for some massive damage, but Silvaria does have the ability to double protect just like last game. Will Egg choose to play this differently?
Let's see the Camerupt Mega Evolve yet again in this game 2 for Egg, and it's going to be the Kama-O will protect itself first. Does Gardevoir follow suit? No, she doesn't. That allows this Eruption to come out full power, but it does have that spread damage. Will this do enough to knock out Gardevoir? No, it doesn't. Gardevoir brought under 40% as Farigiraf sets up the sunny day.
This is a very powerful Camerupt now. Even with being at 73% health, Sun more than makes up for that. These eruptions are going to hurt, and they are going to be very hard for Silvaria to withstand. He needs to get this Camerupt off the field as soon as possible.
You're absolutely right there, Highland. This Camerupt with that harsh sunlight giving Eruption that 50% boost in the harsh sunlight. It does mean that Eruption, even though Camerupt has lost 27% of its max HP and Eruption's base power is lowered, it's still going to be doing big damage. Might even pick up the knockout into the Gardevoir. And depending on how this Kama-O is invested through the resistance, Camerupt could potentially do some big damage into Kama-O.
We're going to see Egg going for that Eruption again, and that's going to knock out Gardevoir. It's going to bring Kama-O down to below half health as well. And again, we cannot stress enough, that's resisted.
And the Kama-O goes for the cow, or the King Gambit takes the Kowtow Cleave into the Kama-O. Not very effective. Kama-O will survive, and that allows Kama-O to go for the Aura Sphere. Extremely effective into the King Gambit. That's a one-hit knockout.
Most certainly is. Now, Egg is quite literally down to just Camerupt. Are Sunny Day boosted eruptions going to be enough to bring this back, or has Silvaria forced us into a game 3?
This will be a very intense endgame, as we do see Lycanroc is the third Pokemon for Silvaria in this game 2, with that Focus Sash still intact.
That is correct. Now, Focus Sash being active does mean that you can take one Eruption here and then weaken this Camerupt further. We're going to see Silvaria choose to play it safe here and double protect on both Mons, trying to just stall out Trick Room, because once it's gone, it's gone.
And it's also important to note there, Highland, I just now remembering with that Kama-O, it got that knockout into the King Gambit. That was after it got that Draco Meteor off into the Farigiraf. Its special attack was 2 stages below normal.
That is correct. We are going to see the final Trick Room Eruption from Camerupt this turn. It is going to knock out Kama-O. Dash is now broken on Lycanroc as well. However, Brick Room is now gone. And
Camera
Camera-Up's not doing so well. It's going to have to start relying on Earth Powers.
I think you're right. The Earth Powers are probably going to be what it needs to get this knockout into Lycanroc and potentially that 4th and final. But the 4th and final is revealed to be Bascule Legion with that extremely effective Aqua Jet, even though there's the harsh sunlight out.
Even in Sun, the fact that this is quad weak to Aqua Jet and the fact that Camera-Up's already on very low health means that one Aqua Jet is likely all Silvaria needs to win the game. And we are going to see him go for that right now. And sure enough, Game 2 will go to Silvaria. We are going to Game 3.
That was an incredible turn of events for Silvaria in that Game 2. That Spiritomb coming out there, Highland, in Game 2, going for the ally switch on the first turn of the battle, but Gardevoir not being phased for Silvaria gets that Pixelate boosted Hyper Voice, immediate one-hit knockout into a Pokemon with a really good special defense stat.
Very interesting indeed. Let's see what changes will be made, if any, for Game 3.
I am curious if we do see the Drampa come in Game 3, because Drampa, even though it does not have that Drampa Knight, it does have Cloud9, which it is a decent ability for a Drampa, but in a matchup like this, you kind of want to make sure that your Pokemon have their abilities worthwhile. And in a matchup like this, Drampa plus the Gardevoir, we saw how much damage Gardevoir did to a Spiritomb. I wonder how much damage you could do to a Drampa.
That is a very good question. Drampa is surprisingly bulky, so it would be interesting to see how much it can withstand that, if at all.
Yeah, and we also saw the Maushold come out in Game 1 for and it got that critical hit boosted Hyper Voice. I wonder if it was trying to go for something like a Population Bomb into the Gardevoir or even into something like that Kamo with 10 guaranteed hits potentially if it lands. That might have picked up the knockout into either the Kamo or the Gardevoir.
It very well could have. Now, there are still some Pokemon we've not seen here. This Talonflame has not shown up, and neither has Silvaria's Kingambit. And again, I would not be expecting this Kingambit to show up, given that there is a monstrous Mega Camerupt over on Egg side of the field. However, who knows? Maybe some unexpected Pokemon are what Silvaria needs to catch Egg off guard.
That is true. It will be interesting to see what Silvaria tries to go for here in this Game 3 against Egg. Egg with that Trick Room mode, playing it very well in this set, but can you get through the Trick Room one final time and move either one of our trainers into the top 16, where they will be facing off against a really strong opponent in the winner of Mobster or Ultimate?
It will be a very interesting match indeed. Especially since we get to see both sides of that match in that bracket being formed today. Because our last match of this stream will be Mobster against Ultimate. So, make sure you stick around for that.
Well, our trainers are getting set. This is Game 3 of Top 32. Winner moves on in the Draco Cup. Let's get into it. Game 3, Egg is going back to Game 1 with that Maushold and Farigiraf. And on the side of Silvaria, it's Kamo, but there's the Kingambit.
Very interesting play for the Kingambit to come out now. Now, with Farigiraf, of course, on the field, Armor Tail is going to prevent Sucker Punch from working. But Kingambit does have things like Kowtow Cleave, which it can still use for very huge damage against Farigiraf without worrying about Armor Tail.
That is true, and with the Expert Belt as its held item as well, that Kowtow Cleave is not only going to be boosted by the same type attack bonus, it's going to be boosted another 20% due to it being super effective. So Maushold, you have to wonder if Maushold tries to go for something like that Population Bomb into the Kamo, try to pick up the knockout, or does it go for a Follow Me and keep Farigiraf around?
Well, we are going to see Maushold defy all expectations here and instead just protect itself against this incoming Aura Sphere. Very, very smart play. We are sure enough going to see King Gambit go for that Kowtow Cleave, and that's going to knock out Farigiraf. Egg is going to have to play this game without Trick Room.
What an immediate one-hit knockout there. That expert belt boosted Kowtow Cleave into a Pokemon with such a great defensive status for Farigiraf, saying, I don't think so. Immediate one-hit knockout. And now you have Camerupt down on the field without the Trick Room and without the Sun.
This is a very precarious position. Camerupt really wants Trick Room active in order to be able to start sweeping. Because it's not here, that does mean Egg is basically going to have to rely exclusively on Earth Power. Eruption is going to become very weak very fast because Camerupt is just going to have to be a sponge when it comes to hits.
We are going to see that Mega Evolution come out from this Camerupt once again for Egg. It gets that Sheer Force ability now as Mouse will try to go for a second Protect. It will fail. This allows Combo going for that Aura Sphere. Super effective into the Mousehold. A one-hit knockout.
Mousehold's going to lead the field, and now the question is, what did the King Gambit do? Did it protect? No, it went for Kowtow Cleave.
And does over 50% into the camera, but we do see the Earth Power come out, and in exchange, the King Gambit is knocked out immediately with a critical hit from the Sheer Force boosted Earth Power. Camerupt pulling this back slightly for A.
Blow for blow, mon for mon. King Gambit has left the field. What will Silvari bring in response as Egg brings out his own King Gambit against Silvari's Lycanroc?
Lycanroc is now on the field with that Focus Sash still intact. We saw how much damage this Life Orb boosted Sucker Punch did into the Lycanroc in game 1. But now with the Sash intact, Lycanroc is in a great position against his King Gambit. And even the Mega Camerupt with Earth Power.
That's correct, Talon. And don't forget that this Lycanroc does have close combat, which should be more than enough to get rid of this King Gambit right here and now. And sure enough, we are going to see that that's exactly what Lycanroc's going for, but he did it against the Camerupt, getting it off the field.
An immediate knockout from that close combat into the Mega Camerupt. Here's the Aura Sphere from the Como, extremely effective, picks up the knockout. And Silvaria has done it. They have defeated Epics 2-1 and are moving on to the top 16.
Very well played match from both contestants.
That game was absolutely amazing from Silvaria and Epics. And Silvaria, with that game 3, I mean, honestly, Highland, you called it out there with relation to the King Gambit. It seemed like it was a very difficult bring for Silvaria, but Silvaria recognized Farigiraf has come to every game in this set. Let me try and bring my King Gambit and try to get a move like that Kowtow Cleave off. And with that Expert Belt boost, it picked up the knockout immediately.
That is correct. Now, we are ready to go into game 2, but before we do, let's quick go over both contestants because, game 2 is a match, ladies and gentlemen. By which I mean, it's time to see Atrix and Silver on the big screen again.
Oh man, it's Atrix and Silver. So let's start talking about our two trainers real quick. First, let's start with MJ, as we have seen him before on our stream in the Win-In matchup for the Draco Cup during the pool stages, Highland. And he is still rocking that manual sand mode of Aerodactyl to boost the power of his Garchomp with that Garchomp Bite held item.
That is correct, Talon. Now, in comparison, Silver is running a dual Mega Team with a combination of Mega Swampert and Mega Dragalge, being able to basically pick and choose preferred core here. He does have a Rain Enabler in Pelipper here as well. So really this is going to come down to who's better here? Who's gonna win? Is it gonna be the Sun? Is it gonna be the Rain? Call Gen 5 because Weather Wars are back. They're alive and well.
You're absolutely right. It does seem like the weather is back in the favor of this matchup between Silver and MJ, but I'm also looking at Silver's team. We do see that there is a Garchomp, so both our trainers opting to go for one of the strongest pseudo-legendary Pokemon in the game's existence. But on the side of Silvaria, their Garchomp is holding that Choice Scarf, so it'll be guaranteed faster than MJ's.
That is correct. Now, it will be very interesting to see how both sides play this, because frankly, both sides are very strong and talented battlers. Ignore the fact that they're both currently Pokeball rank. They are both very strong and smart battlers. They should not be underestimated.
They definitely should not be underestimated. As we did see MJ, he took this exact team that he is running in the Draco Cup pilot and finished top 8 at the very first Pokemon Champions Regional in Indianapolis back in May.
That is correct. And that was back in Regulation MA too. So now we're in MB. We'll see how well does this team hold up.
We definitely will. And also looking at the team compositions, we do see that Swampert with the Pelipper, that has been a very common core in Regulation MB, with Swampert getting that Swift Swim ability, but also getting access to that Wave Crash move in Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, giving it a really powerful water type move boosted by the same type attack bonus and the rain. There's a potential that it could pick up a one-hit knockout into most of MJ's team if it lands correctly.
Listen, on the same way, I didn't want to accidentally change the ladder. Yeah, I get it.
Also looking at Silver's team, I want to point out that Mega Dragalge on Silver's side, because when it's in its base form, Highland, it's got the adaptability ability. That's going to boost the power of Sludge Bomb and Draco Meteor into both the Garchomp and the Sylveon. But if it were to Mega Evolve, it would suddenly turn in from adaptability into Regenerator.
That is correct, Town. Dragalge is a very interesting mom, because you don't necessarily want to Mega Evolve it right away. You can choose whether you want to have a lot of offensive pressure with adaptability, or if you would rather switch this over to a defensive pivot with stuff like Regenerator Flip Turn. So, it's very interesting. You basically can just switch between both forms and choose which one's better for the match. Now, in this specific matchup, I do think that the Regenerator play is the more sound option, but adaptability Sludge Bombs will hurt.
Well, let's see what happens in this game number 1 between MJ and Silver. Silver is going to lead with their Garchomp and King Gambit, and on MJ's side, it's Charizard and Aerodactyl.
And this is very interesting right off the bat. Aerodactyl, as we know, has that very, very nasty move known as Rock Slide, which, even though it is resisted, can flinch. And we all know how powerful flinch is. Now,
that is...
Charizard as well is also in a very interesting position here, because it could Mega Evolve right now and potentially just take this King Gambit off the field. But there is an entire Garchomp right there.
We're going to see the King Gambit switch out here and reveal the third Pokemon for Silver. Is that Dragalge? So, and there's the Charizard IY. It's going to activate on MJ's side. So no Mega Garchomp in this game. It's just Mega Charizard Y.
That is correct. Now, Sun is going to get set up as a result of this. The Aerodactyl goes for Wide Guard.
Trying to call that Rock Slide from the Garchomp. Did MJ call it correctly? No! It's the Iron Head with a Choice Scarf. Super effective, but Aerodactyl barely survives the hit.
Charizard goes for that Sun-boosted Heat Wave, and even though that is resisted by both sides, it does still do a very respectable amount of damage. That is solid pressure coming out from this Charizard.
That is solid pressure coming out from the Charizard. And now with Aerodactyl very low, not having its Focus Sash broken, it's still intact. But with 7%, it won't be able to survive a hit and activate that Focus Sash. And we're going to see MJ realizing that switches out Aerodactyl and brings in Garchomp. Let's see what Silver goes for. Ooh, it's the Dragalge activating.
Mega Dragalge is here. Now, as we've stated before, this thing does get access to Flip Turn and now has the Regenerator ability. which means that Silver has a very strong defensive pivot option here, if he so chooses. We are going to see that Charizard's going for a sun-boosted Weather Ball. It's not enough to knock out the Garchomp, though. Hanging on by a thread, Dragalji's going for that Sludge Bomb, doing huge amounts of damage to Aatrix's Charizard.
Big damage into the Charizard, brings it under half. But now this Garchomp in a very interesting position. Do you want to go for another Iron Head into this Garchomp, knowing that Rough Skin will most likely knock you out? Or do you go for the Iron Head into the Charizard at this point? Or do you potentially try to switch out and bring something like the Pelipper in?
All are solid options. The question is, which one seems to be the most appealing option to Silver? We're going to see him choose to play this safe now and protect with Dragalji, going for Iron Head with his own Garchomp, sacking into Rough Skin Chip, just to try to fish for that own flinch on Aatrix's Garchomp. Did he get it?
We're going to see the Heat Wave come out from this Mega Charizard Y, but no, it was just the Dragon Claw into the Mega Dragalji slot. No damage on this turn, but now Silver has a potential to reveal the fourth Pokemon or bring something like that King Gambit out, and Sucker Punch might be able to pick up the knockout from this range into the Charizard, depending on how the Charizard is trained defensively.
It most certainly could, especially if this is a very offensive Charizard spread, but we are not privy to such information, so we'll have to see. We are going to see King Gambit come into action. Will we see a Sucker Punch knockout?
It'll be interesting to see if the Sucker Punch is chosen, because now this Garchomp on MJ's side, it does have access to Stomping Tantrum and Earthquakes, which are super effective, as Dragalji will switch out and reveal Farigiraf as the fourth and final Pokemon. Sucker Punch comes out. Charizard survives on 1%. Gets to go for this Weather Ball into the King Gambit. One hit knockout. What a momentum swing for MJ.
That was a critical hit, too. This is just insult to injury.
And Garchomp going for the Dragon Claw into this Farigiraf, who takes big damage immediately from that Dragon Claw. Now Dragalji coming back in on the field with full HP thanks to the Regenerator ability, but this is the last turn of the Harsh Sunlight.
That is correct. If Aatrix wants this to work, he's going to have to switch Charizard out and back in, and this Charizard's on 1% health. The odds of him being able to do that are slim to none. Now, thankfully, Trick Room is not active yet, which means Charizard should outspeed both Dragalji and Farigiraf, and should be able to, at the very least, put out some damage with a Weather Ball this turn, and we are going to see that's exactly what Aatrix is choosing to do. It is enough to knock out that Farigiraf, though, thus denying Silver the opportunity to do something like Trick Room.
And now this Earthquake coming out super effective into this Mega Dragalji. How much damage will this do? It does big damage, but Dragalji will survive and gets to go for the Sludge Bomb into the Charizard. Picks up the knockout into the Charizard.
This is an interesting turn of events. Aerodactyl is going to come back in. It is now Dragalji against the world. And Dragalji cannot benefit from that Regenerator anymore to get its health back up. It's not looking good for Silver.
Well, Dragalji is going to protect itself on this turn from any damage, trying to scout out what the Garchomp goes for, as Aerodactyl will set up the Sandstorm. Guaranteed passive damage to a Pokemon like Dragalji, who isn't a Rock, Ground, and Steel type at the end of every turn.
Very smart play from Aatrix, making it so Silver can't even stall this out with Protect. Even if he gets the double, he will die to Sandstorm Chip this turn. This is game.
This is a very impressive game number one by MJ against Silver. Silver bringing that Dragalji and doing their best, but the King Gambit, unfortunately, not getting that knockout into Charizard might have sealed the game for Silver in game one, as Aerodactyl will set up that Tailwind. And here's that Earthquake. It won't affect Aerodactyl due to it flying, but it's super effective into the Dragalji. Picks up the knockout. MJ wins game number one.
Very, very well played by both sides. But now the question is, will Silver bring the same 4 for this game too. We do still have an entire Rain Core in the back that would be very interesting to see go up against Aatrix here.
It would be interesting for sure if Silver tries to bring that Rain Core, and we did see the Dragalge try to do some good damage into MJ's team, and it really put out some good output into that Mega Charizard Y, doing over 50% after Mega Evolving with that Sludge Bomb. Unfortunately, could not get that 30% poison to activate, but at the same time, Dragalge was in a very disadvantageous position there, and Charizard surviving that Sucker Punch, absolutely massive for MJ. Charizard showcasing its love for its trainer in that game 1.
It most certainly did. Tailwind for the next game. We'll be curious to see what both sides choose to rely on here. Now, remember, Aatrix does still have the ability to Mega Evolve that Garchomp. And therefore, that might actually be the way to go if he thinks that Silver is going to go for the Rain Core route, because Charizard relies on that Sun for its massive damage output with stuff like Weather Ball. Garchomp doesn't necessarily care.
You're right. Garchomp does not necessarily matter much against that Dragalge with the Sludge Bomb, but also I wonder if Sucker Punch might have been able to knock out that Garchomp from the range it was. Charizard, it was very close, and now you have to figure, can I get that Trick Room up if I'm Silver and I bring that Dragalge again and forego the rain?
That is a very good question. But let's see, let's figure out which 4 each team brought. Here we are, game 2 of MJ against Silver. We are to see Pelipper and Dragalge. Silver brought the Rain Core, but he does still have the option to Mega Evolve this Dragalge if he so chooses.
He does have the opportunity to Mega Evolve the Dragalge, but the Mega Charizard also has an opportunity to go for that Mega Evolution, and if it does, that would actually overwrite the Rain for the Sun, but you also have that Aerodactyl who has the potential to overwrite the Rain with Sand.
That is correct. Now, what Silver could choose to do here if he thinks that MJ's going to Mega Evolve turn 1 is switch out this Pelipper just to bring it back in and overwrite the Sun. And sure enough, MJ is going to Mega Evolve right away to replace that Rain with Sun. Again, Weather Wars are back. Tell your friends.
Weather Wars are back as the Dragalge is going to Mega Evolve yet again into that Mega Dragalge. Activate Regenerator over the adaptability as Aerodactyl will go for the Sandstorm.
What is MJ planning?
That's what he's planning. The Weather Ball in the sand, a rock type move. One hit knockout into the Pelipper.
The crit didn't even matter. I'm speechless.
What a call out by MJ as the Draco Meteor comes out from the Dragalge and it goes into the Aerodactyl over 80%, but Aerodactyl will survive, and now Dragalge and Charizard take a little bit of damage from that Sandstorm.
That was an incredibly smart play from MJ. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
That was an incredible turn right there from MJ, getting that manual sand up. So instead of the the fire type Weather Ball, it was a rock type Weather Ball into a flying type. That's something you don't necessarily see all that much. Incredible turn for MJ there to pick up the Pelipper.
Very interesting indeed. Now, Farigiraf is in, and this thing is bulky enough to be able to live a Weather Ball from Charizard. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it can withstand the pressure of Aerodactyl plus Charizard together. And this Aerodactyl could go for Rock Slide, and sure enough, that is exactly what we're going to see. Did MJ get the flinch?
We're going to see the Heat Wave come out first, do over 50% into this Farigiraf on Silver's side. Dragalge, though, just goes for a second Draco Meteor into this Aerodactyl and picks up the knockout into the Aerodactyl. But let's see, did Farigiraf get flinched from that Rock Slide? It did
not.
The Trick Room is up.
Got 5 turns in Trick Room, technically 4, because for some reason the use of Trick Room counts as a turn, Game Freak. But let's see how MJ chooses to play around it.
MJ revealing the Sylveon as the third Pokemon in this game, number 2. The Trick Room is up, but this Dragalge is now at -4 on its special attack after those 2 Draco Meteors into Aerodactyl. So even with the Sludge Bomb being super effective in the Sylveon, it won't be doing as much damage.
That is correct. Now, Sylveon, of course, does have access to Pixelate Hyper Voice, which is a decent amount of damage to both Mons. King Gambit, on the other hand, does not really mind. And 1 Iron Head is going to be more than enough to knock out the Sylveon. But we are going to see MJ going into Garchomp, presumably predicting the King Gambit switch.
And the Hyper Voice doing over 60% into the King Gambit through the neutrality with that Life Orb on Sylveon. But it knocks out the Farigiraf, and once again, Silver down to their last 2 Pokemon.
That's correct. Now, Silver does have Trick Room up, which means this King Gambit should be able to outspeed Sylveon and knock it out with Iron Head. However, MJ has an entire Garchomp right there, and 1 Earthquake is all he needs to get rid of King Gambit and possibly a Dragalge at the same time.
It will be interesting. Dragalge now, with that Regenerator, it got a lot of recovery back that it took from the Charizard's Heat Wave and Aerodactyl's damage from that Rock Slide. I wonder what's going to happen now as the King Gambit on Silver's side. It does have that Iron Head, which is super effective into Sylveon.
We're going to see Sylveon go for the Detect here, as MJ also is going to protect on Garchomp. He's choosing to play it safe, seeing what Silver's planning. Silver's going for the Draco Meteors. He wants this Garchomp off the field, and sure enough, he was trying to get rid of the Sylveon with Iron Head from King Gambit too. MJ's just trying to stall out Trick Room as best he can.
And with 2 turns left of the Trick Room, this will be an interesting endgame for MJ, as the Garchomp and the Sylveon, they are susceptible to the Dragalge and the King Gambit right now. But we have to remember, Draco Meteor, 90% accurate. There is a chance that it could miss.
There is a chance it could miss indeed. Now, there are still 2 turns of Trick Room to play through real quick. Sandstorm is also about to wear off, which means that the passive chip damage against Dragalge is soon to be gone. So MJ is going to have to start trying to get aggressive here.
And Garchomp is going to switch itself out here for the Charizard. That gets another turn of the Trick Room expired, but also activates the Harsh Sunlight. Sylveon will go for the Quick Attack, boosted by Pixelade, making it a Fairy Type move into Dragalge. And we're going to see the Dragalge went for Draco Meteor, but it missed. Oh no, it went into the Sylveon. Oh, a call by MJ. Getting the Charizard out on the field. You can stall out the Trick Room now on this next turn.
You can indeed. MJ is in a very strong position here. Now, it's not impossible for Silver to come back from this, but it's going to be very hard.
Sylveon going for that Detect. Will Charizard follow suit and get the last turn of Trick Room over? Yes, it will. MJ getting through this Trick Room with a flawless precision as Dragalge goes for the Draco Meteor into Charizard, who protects itself, and King Gambit tries for the Iron Head into Sylveon, who also protects itself.
Trick Room's off the field. Charizard is going to outspeed everything now. 1 Weather Ball is all it's going to take to finish this King Gambit off, which means Sylveon will have no worries.
Sylveon will have no worries against the Dragalge, and with that Garchomp in the back with super effective Dragon and Ground type moves into the Dragalge, MJ might be seeing the writing on the wall. The Sucker Punch, though, from this King Gambit, doing big damage into the Charizard. Not enough to pick up the knockout. Here comes the Weather Ball in the sun, and that will knock out this King Gambit. What did the Sylveon go for here? Oh, another critical hit Weather Ball as well. And Sylveon goes for the Hyper Beam! The Hyper Beam with the Pixelate! Dragalge with that special defense, will it do enough? It will! Sylveon picks up the final KO of this set, and congratulations to MJ! He is moving on to the top 16.
MJ makes it out of this match with a 2-0 lead against Silver. Very nicely done.
In both games, MJ played absolutely incredible against Silver's Trick Room mode of that Farigiraf and Trickology, but also Silver not bringing the rain mode. Very interesting in game number 2. Brought the Pelipper, which I did like to see. And MJ, what a call in that game number 2, Highland. Getting that Sandstorm up with Aerodactyl, turning Weather Ball from a water type move initially from Pelipper into a fire type move for Charizard's Mega Evolution into a rock type move from the Sandstorm. All we were missing was a like a snow warning Pokemon and getting all 4 weathers at one time.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to transition over to our replay before our final match for this stream. But before we do, I am going to go get the sponsor of this stream, water. Please hydrate. Shout outs to dihydrogen monoxide, keeping me hydrated. All right. Let's transition over to our replay match. Our replay match, of course, being Hyperlink against not number 1. Let me go ahead and bring this over into frame. Here we are. So, this is not my taskbar, by the way. This is just how he recorded the thing. So, this is a very interesting comp right off the bat. We have seen not number 1's team before. He ran the Halifin Mega Floette team against Atrix that we saw in the previous stream. However, Hyper's running a Zard Y Venusaur Sun team here. Not one we've seen before. Very interesting. We do, of course, have the infamous Toxapex. That, you know, Pex do Pex things. Do I need to explain this further? But it does look like we are going to be leading with Annihilate. Very interesting decision here. Now, in this matchup, I do think that Instinct Charizard is the correct play here. I'm not sure if I would bring Garchomp, to be honest. You do have that entire Floette right there. I feel like Toxapex is the safer option, or perhaps Venusaur if you want to rely on Sludge Bombs. I'm not necessarily sure Garchomp's the right play here, but we'll see. We'll see if that works out. I'm gonna try to see if I can get my own music in here real quick. Alright, so we are going to see Incineroar come in and go straight for that Intimidate. As Mega Delphox is going to hit the field, not the Floette. Now, Annihilate's going to protect. Very interesting to see here. Delphox go for Psyshock. It did. Annihilate very expertly dodging that. As well as the Poison Jab from Sneasler. Now, Fake Out is pretty free here. We're not going to deny Sneasler the opportunity to do anything further. Delphox going for that Psyshock yet again, bringing Annihilate down to its Focus Sash. Sneasler is going to flinch from that Fake Out. Very solid chip there. Annihilate going for that Phantom Force. Now, this is a very interesting play because Annihilate, of course, not going to take any damage this turn. It was the slowest thing on the field. This is just going to be free damage, presumably against the Delphox. So, what are we going to choose to do as well? We're going to Parting Shot out with Incineroar. Now, number one is going to switch Delphox out for his own Incineroar, just to minimize damage from this Phantom Force. It is going to proc Defiant from Annihilate, though. So this Phantom Force is about to do even more than it normally would have. Incineroar's going to take that post-combat, though, like a tank. Citrus Berry is going to bring its health back up as well. Annihilate goes for that Phantom Force, doing a decent amount of chip on Incineroar. It did about 25% thanks to being +1 attack now. Instance going for that Parting Shot on Sneasler, switching out. What are we bringing in response? It's Garchomp time. This is, of course, Scarf Garchomp. It will be the fastest thing on the field currently. What are we going to try to do with Annihilate? Are you going to risk another Phantom Force? You are the slowest thing on this field. The ape might be a lost cause. What do we see? We're going to see Sinistra come in, heal the Sneasler with that Hospitality. Annihilate's going for Protect. Garchomp's going for that Earthquake. This is going to hurt, and will still do enough to get the Sneasler off the field. No! Because of Hospitality, Sneasler's Focus Sash is active again. Sneasler can go for that Poison Jab. Annihilate protects itself. Garchomp's going for those EQs. just trying to rack up damage here. Delphox back on the field. Now, Levitate is going to make it so that Delphox doesn't care about this Earthquake. Neither does Zard, which means this Earthquake will be single target against Sinistra specifically. Sinistra does resist, though. Let's see how much this winds up doing. Not a whole lot, surprisingly. Sinistra is going to go for that Machagacha. Do we get a burn on Garchomp? We do not. This should get most of the health back that it just lost because of that Machagacha as well. We are going to see a Mega Evolution, presumably Weather Ball, into Sinistra right now. However, or maybe not. Maybe Heat Wave. Play it safe. Nice spread damage. We're also going to see Garchomp get swapped out for Incineroar here. Makes a lot of sense for that to be the case, as we are lowering the offensive pressure of things yet again. Even though Intimidate does not matter so much, remember, Incineroar does a Parting Shot. He can just progressively weaken this Delphox. Charizard is going to get Sunset up. This is a double-edged sword, though. We do have an entire Delphox we're up against that's also benefiting from this. And it's going for the Nasty Plot as well, getting itself +2 special attack, which means even after the Parting Shot from Incineroar, this will be a +1 Delphox. This is a very precarious position. We're going to see Charizard go for that Sun-boosted Weather Ball here, which should be enough to get rid of the Sinistra. Now, number one knows this. He's going to switch Sinistra out for his own Incineroar to take the hit. Delphox is going to protect as well. Lots of Intimidates, lots of protection. This is a game, ladies and gentlemen. Charizard's going for Weather Ball here. It is still going to do a decent amount of damage to Incineroar. All things considered, it's bringing it down to a Citrus Berry. Incineroar going for Throat Chop against the opponent here. Hyper is playing this very safe. Hyper's going for Throat Chop against not number one's Delphox yet again. Will not number one predict this? Is he going to switch Delphox out? Then we're going for Fake Out on Hyperlink's Fake Out, thus denying Throat Chop the opportunity. Heat Wave Chip is going to do a huge amount of damage to Incineroar. It is one hit away from getting knocked off the field. This is very interesting. Incineroar is going to get knocked out here. Charizard going for Weather Ball against not number one's Incineroar, getting some more chip here. It's heavy amount of chip too, even though it is resisted. Incineroar is going to go for that Parting Shot, weakening Charizard's damage output. It means Incine's going back to not number one here. What's going to come out in response? It's Sneasler. Annihilape's going to come back out as well. As Annihilape is still on 1 HP in a dream, by the way. Frankly, I'm surprised it's lived as long as it has. Charizard going for that Protect here, trying to just play it safe. This Delphox is going to go for Heat Wave. That is going to knock out Annihilape, though. Sneaser's going for CC here. Not going to do anything to Zard, but Sun is no longer active, and Hyper can't refresh it because down to the last 2 Pokemon. He's going to have to play the rest of this without that Sun-boosted Weather Ball that Charizard loves so much. Going to have to rely on Heat Wave. Not number 1, switching out Sneasler, going into Incineroar, lowering that Garchomp's damage output. Delphox choosing to play it safe by going for Protect as well. Garchomp's going for that Rock Slide. This is going to be good damage against Incineroar. Not enough to knock it out, though. Charizard's going for the Heat Wave as well. That is going to get blocked by Protect, but that is still a good amount of damage on Incineroar. It's enough to knock it out. Now everyone's going to send back in Sneasler. The 2v3 situation now, but this Sneasler is also on 1 HP in a dream. Garchomp's going to go for that Rock Slide yet again, but Sneasler does have Fake Out. Is he going to just sack it here to the Rough Skin chip? He will, just to deny Garchomp that Rock Slide. Honestly, a very solid play from not number 1. Delphox going for that Side Shot against Garchomp, knocking it out. It is now a 1v2. Charizard goes for the Heat Wave. Delphox dodges it. It is now Delphox Sinistra against Charizard. Sinistra is in a very precarious situation here. Sinistra goes for the Protect. Delphox going for Psyshock. It is enough to knock out Charizard. Not number 1 takes game 1 in this best of 3. Going into game 2. Are we going to see any changes? We could potentially see this Venusaur. This is Chlorophyll Venusaur. We're going to rely on Zard again. It could be the right option. We're going to see Annihilate, Charizard, Garchomp, Instant. Same 4 as last time. Just different order. Will this be enough? Is not number 1 going to change anything up? We haven't seen this Palafin yet either. Although, with a Sun team that he is up against, this might not be the right matchup for him. That being said, he did bring it against Atrix, so who the heck knows? Well, we're about to find out because we see Delphox Sneasler against Annihilate Charizard. Same leads as last time. We're going to see a slightly different game plan here, though. We're going to switch out Annihilate straight into Incineroar to get that Intimidate off, and we're going to turn 1 Mega Evolve Charizard. Interesting change in strategy. Let's see how this works out for you. Wolfie's Incineroar comes in. Delphox is going to Mega Evolve here. Now, Delphox itself does not care about these Intimidates. Sneasler, on the other hand, does not appreciate it. Charizard is going to Mega Evolve in response. It's going to get that Sun up. Delphox goes for Heat Wave. Solid amount of chip damage to both of Hyper's Mons. Sneasler goes for that Poison Jab. And the Poison Touch is going to poison Charizard. It's on a timer now. Interesting turn of events. Charizard goes for that Weather Ball. This is going to bring Sneasler down to its sash. Sneasler is not exactly a bulky Mon. Now, Charizard realistically has maybe 3 turns left due to poison damage, and that's assuming it doesn't get hit at all by anything else. So this is a very interesting situation. What will we see in response here? We're going to see not number 1 withdraw Delphox, switching it out for his own Incineroar to get the Intimidate off on Hyper's Incineroar. Hyper switching Charizard out, going into his Garchomp. Kneasler's going for Protect here. Incineroar's going for that Fake Out chip against Incineroar. They're going to see Hyperlink opt to switch Incineroar out for his Annihilate as Garchomp's going for a Rock Slide chip here. Incineroar goes for the Fake Out against Hyper's Garchomp, taking some Rough Skin chip, but it does deny Garchomp the ability to Rock Slide here. Correctly predicting the close combat by switching into Annihilate as well. Very nice play from Hyper. Now, number 1's going to withdraw Kneasler going into Sinistra. Hospitality's going to bring Incineroar back up to full HP. Garchomp going for that Rock Slide. Sinistra dodges it, only hitting Incineroar. Nice amount of tip damage as well. Not enough to bring Incineroar down to his Citrus Berry, though, but it was a crit. Annihilate going for that Phantom Force. As Incineroar goes for the Parting Shot on Garchomp. Switching back out. Who said you can't have Pivot Wars in VGC? Delphox is back on the field. Garchomp's going to try to go for that Rock Slide yet again. Sinistra goes for Rage Powder, trying to redirect everything, but Rock Slide does not care about redirection. This is going to be a decent amount of chip on both Mons. Delphox uses Psyshock. This is going to do some heavy damage to Garchomp. Not enough to cause it to do anything, though, but Phantom Force is going to hit Sinistra, proc the Cassie Berry. Sinistra can't take another one of those. That was some decent amount of damage, even through Cassie Berry. Sunlight is also no longer active, meaning that Charizard can come back in and refresh it. Remember, Charizard is on a timer from that poison earlier. We're going to see Annihilate going for Phantom Force again. Who are you choosing to target? Choosing to target Delphox. Hyper's going to switch Garchomp out back into Incineroar. Going for that Intimidate. Delphox going for Protect. Annihilate's going for the Phantom Force. Sinistra's going for Machaganja. Annihilate, of course, dodges it. This is going to hurt Incineroar slightly. Of course, it cannot get burnt because it is a fire type. This is going to give Sinistra a little bit of health back. Now, Incineroar is going to go for Throat Chop here. On what is the question? On Sinistra, now number 1's going to withdraw the Delphox into his own Incineroar. He is predicting that Phantom Force. Now, Intimidate is going to proc Annihilate's Defiant. Just like Game 1, this is going to do a decent amount of damage as a result. This is going to be enough to bring Incineroar down to its Citrus Berry. Sinistra going for Matcha Gotcha. Annihilate, but dodges it again. This time, it didn't even have Phantom Force to guarantee the dodge. Getting a little bit of his health back as a result. Now, Hyper's Incineroar did go for Flare Blitz. Not enough to knock Sinistra out, though. Hanging on by a thread thanks to the Matcha Gotcha regeneration. Incineroar is going to be using its own Citrus Berry here because of the recoil chip that it gave itself. What is Hyper going to do next? 30 seconds on the clock. He's going to opt to protect with Annihilate. Going for Parting Shot on Incineroar. Now number one, withdrawing his Sinistra, going back into Sneasler. So now number one's Instant is going to fake out Hyper's Instant, thus denying the Parting Shot. You can choose to play this differently at all. All right. Garchomp is back in. Sneasler's going for that close combat against Hyper's Incineroar, knocking it out. Instinct going for Parting Shot on Hyper's Garchomp. Going back to not number one. What is he sending out in response? It's Delphox again. This is a very back and forth game. Garchomp's trying to go for the Rock Slides. He has to. He can't go for ground type moves because of Delphox's Levitate. Won't be doing anything to it. No, wait. You're contemplating. All right, you are going to go for the Rock Slide with Garchomp. Annihilate is going to try this Phantom Force yet again. Targeting Delphox. Sneasler is going to protect itself on this incoming Rock Slide. This is still going to do a good amount of damage to Delphox, though. Brings it down to 37. Delphox is going to go for Psyshock on Annihilate. Brings it down to the Sash. Annihilate gets that Phantom Force off. Garchomp's going to go for Rock Slide again. Now number one going to switch Delphox out. He is withdrawing his Delphox into Incineroar yet again, predicting these Phantom Force targets correctly. This is going to boost Annihilate's attack. Sinistra comes back in as well. Hospitality, increasing Incineroar's health. Garchomp goes for the Rock Slide chip here. It's going to do enough to knock out Sinistra. Annihilate goes for the Phantom Force here, doing a good amount of damage to Incineroar, down to 35. Delphox comes back in. We're going to see Hyper try to swap Garchomp out for Charizard and protect on Annihilate. We'll see what Not Number 1 tries to do in response, if anything. Charizard comes back in, gets the sun back up. Annihilate's going for Protect. Cinework goes for the Fake Out chip against Charizard as Delphox goes for Heat Wave. Both of those in combination with Poison are going to be enough to get Charizard out of here. But what if it comes down to Poison? Charizard is gone. Means that Garchomp's back on the field. This is a very precarious position. Garchomp going for that Rock Slide. Annihilate's going for that Phantom Force again. Incineroar living at 1% from that Rock Slide. Annihilate guts the Phantom Force. Incineroar goes for the parting shot. Switching out goes back to Sneasler. Garchomp's going for Rock Slides. Rough Skid Chip is going to get Sneasler out of here. Annihilate goes for the Phantom Force. Is going to get Incineroar out of here, too. What a game. Just like that, it is down to a 2v1 of Garchomp and Annihilate against Delphox. Garchomp going for that Rock Slide chip. Good amount of damage on Delphox. Not going to be able to live another one of those. Gets the flinch, too. Oh, he needed that. He needed that big time. Because if he didn't get that, Delphox could have just Psyshocked, gotten rid of Annihilate. Well, no. Either way, that was Hyper's game. Because it was a 2v1. Very, very close game, though. Game 3 here. You're going to see anything different? We're going to see Delphox and Palafin this time against Annihilate Charizard. We're going to see Garchomp come back in here. Not number one, switching out Palafin straight for Sneasler. This does mean Palafin's now in its hero form, which is, of course, where all of its stats truly shine. Delphox is going to Mega Evolve, as is Charizard. Delphox goes for that Heat Wave chip. Gets the burn on Garchomp. That is huge. Oh, that's not good for Hyperlink at all. Heat Wave from Charizard is going to do huge amounts of damage to that Sneasler. Gets the burn as well. Decent amount of damage to Delphox as well. All these Rock Slides are going to do substantially less now because of that burn on Garchomp. The good news is that Sneasler is also on a timer. One more round of burn chip is going to be enough to knock it out, presumably. We're going to see Sneasler go for Fake Out and just take itself out with Rock Skin chip, but denies Garchomp the opportunity to do any sort of Rock Slide chip itself here. Even with that burn, Delphox goes for the Nasty Plot. Not number one is getting greedy here. Charizard Weather Ball is going to do a good amount of damage here. Not enough to knock it out, though. Distra comes back in. Hospitality. Gonna get Delphox up to a decent amount of damage here. Now, Garchomp is still faster. We're going to see Charizard go for the Helping Hand. Sinistcha goes for Protect here. Garchomp goes for the Rock Slide. This is Helping Hand, so this should offset the burn. Still does a good amount of damage to Delphox regardless. It can't take another one of those. And gets the flinch on Delphox. That is a massive turn of events. Delphox needed to be able to do damage that turn. Delphox goes for the Protect. Garchomp is yet again committing to these Rock Slides. It has no choice. It is Scarfed, but doing what you gotta do. Charizard goes for the Weather Ball on Sinistcha. Knocks it out. With a combination of that plus the Rock Slide chip. This is not looking good for not number one. Garchomp's still putting in a lot of work despite being burnt. Palafin is back. Of course, has that whopping 650 BST currently. Because that's 0 to hero, but it is in Sun. There's still one more turn of Sun left. We are going to see Incineroar attempt to be brought in here to try to weaken this Palafin further with Intimidate. Delphox going for the Protect this turn. Garchomp going for the Rock Slide. Delphox protects. This is going to hit Palafin. Halfin goes for the bulk up here, offsets the Intimidate, and gets the defense boost. Sun is no longer active. Incineroar goes for the fake out here. Garchomp goes for Rock Slide. Delphox down to 1% HP. Gets flinched again. Both Pokemon get flinched. This is incredibly unfortunate for not number one. Incineroar is going to come back, get replaced with Charizard. Sun is back on the menu. Delphox uses Protect here. Halfin goes for the Jet Punch. Take a little bit of Rough Skin Chip here. Garchomp still alive. Goes for that Rock Slide. Half leftovers. Garchomp on 2 HP after that burn. Halfin goes for the Jet Punch chip to knock out Garchomp. Delphox goes for the Psyshock here. Charizard's going to protect itself. Annihilate comes back in. Hyper's going to bring Incineroar back out, weaken Palafin further with Intimidate. Halfin goes for the Jet Punch here. Doing a bit of chip to Incineroar. Delphox goes for the Heat Wave. That was a massive amount of damage to Incineroar because of the Nasty Plot boost. That wasn't even a crit. Incineroar was brought down to a Citrus Berry right there. Annihilate goes for the Phantom Force on Delphox, as Incineroar is going to go for Fake Out to try to prevent any sort of Jet Punch chip. Delphox is going to protect this turn. Annihilate goes for the Phantom Force. Delphox trying its best to get damage on the board. Not getting rid of Incineroar, though. It's going to succumb to this Phantom Force. It is now just this Palafin against the world. goes for bulk up again, getting itself back up to neutral attack +2 defense now. Incineroar goes for the parting shot. Charizard is back on the field. It is a 1v3 right now. Charizard's going to get swapped out for Incin. Getting the Intimidate off on Palfin. Goes for Jet Punch here, which is going to knock out Incineroar. And Annihilate goes for the close combat. Doing a good amount of damage to this Palfin, despite the Palfin being at +2 defense currently. Charizard is back. Sun is back. Palfin's now got to withstand a double trouble here. This Weather Ball is going to hurt, even though it is resisted. Palfin going for Protect. Annihilate goes for the CC here. And Charizard goes for the Weather Ball. Trying to get health back from these leftovers. Palfin goes for the Jet Punch on Charizard. Annihilate goes to the Phantom Force. Charizard goes for the Weather Ball. Doing a massive amount of damage to that Palfin. One more of those and it's out of here. Annihilate goes for the Phantom Force. Not enough to knock out Palfin, though. And Weather Ball is going to seal the deal. Hyper wins the set 2-1. Very nicely done. What a match. And speaking of matches, time for the last match of the day.
That is right, Highland. It is time for the last match of the stream, and that's going to be Mobstachu versus Ultimate. The winner of this match is going to be facing Salvaria, the winner from our first match in the top 32 and the top 16 next week.
That is correct, Talon. And now, the massive moment of truth. Will my controller reconnect to my console?
Oh boy, the controller connecting.
This should not be an issue. Come on now. There we go. All right.
So while we are getting the room code set up for our last match, let's take a look at the team sheets for our trainers. Let's start off with Mobstachu, Highland. We do see a Mega Froslass, Mega Dragonite combination, something that you haven't really seen all that much in Regulation MB. Rounding it out with that Focus Sash Sneasler, a Citrus Berry Basculegion, Never Melt Ice on the Alolan Ninetales, and a Choppleberry King Gambit.
Very interesting. Now, I have not seen a single Mega Dragonite team the entire Draco Cup, so we will see how that turns out.
And if I can actually throw out something about Monster Shoe's team that's going to be pretty fun for you, Highland. This combination, this exact 6, very similar to the team that I ran at the North America International Championships back in June.
Ooh. Very interesting indeed. It will be very interesting to see how this gets played around. Now, what's even more interesting to me here is the fact that there is still the Mega Frostlass option here. And we all know how devastating Mega Frostlass can be.
Mega Frostlass can be devastating, but let's take a look over on the other side of the field, and that will be Ultimate rocking that Mega Metagross, so a single Mega Pokemon on their side of the field, rounding it out with that Focus Sash Aerodactyl, Life Orb Garchomp, the White Herb Sneasler with Coaching, and a Choice Scarf Annihilate.
That is correct. Now, Mega Metagross definitely proven to be a very powerful Mega in Regulation MB. One bullet punch from this thing is all it takes to knock out Alolan Ninetales. Assuming you do not have Aurora Veil set up. So,
you do make a point there that Aurora Veil will help out Pokemon like that Alolan Ninetales and Frostlass with the Snow Warning, giving it essentially a doubled physical defense stat against a Pokemon like Mega Metagross with the Tough Claws.
Exactly. Now, that being said, Metagross does still have a distinct advantage here. So much so that Matthew might choose to forego the Snow Core. He might rely exclusively on Basculegion, Sneasler, Dragonite, Kingambit. But if he doesn't mix things up here, it's going to be very easy to get played around here. It's going to be very easy to be predicted.
That is true, but let's see who is going to win game 1 and move one step closer to advance into the top 16 of the Draco Cup between Mobster and Ultimate. Ultimate is going to lead with Aerodactyl and Annihilate, and on Mobster side, it's Basculegion and Kingambit, so priority out early for Mobster.
This is an interesting field because, again, Basculegion does have Aqua Jet. That's going to be very strong going into this Aerodactyl. However, Aerodactyl could just say, screw it, set up Tailwind. It has Sash. It does not care.
Having the Focus Sash on the Aerodactyl could be a very interesting turn of events for this Basculegion and Kingambit, as going with a doubles priority into that Pokemon would guarantee that the Focus Sash would be broken, but you also have to factor in this Annihilate. It has that Choice Scarf as its held item, and Kingambit going to protect itself to see what Annihilate goes for. It's a Rage Fist, but it goes into the Basculegion. 50 base power, but over half to Basculegion with a super effective damage.
Very interesting indeed. Aerodactyl going for that Rock Slide on Basculegion and Kingambit. Kingambit, of course, Blossom with Protect. Basculegion goes for Last Respect. Not enough to knock out Annihilate, but still a heavy amount of damage.
So both Ghost-type Pokemon taking the super effective damage on each other, but Basculegion breaking through that Rock Slide's 30% flinch chance. Absolutely massive, and Basculegion now goes for the Aqua Jet to break that Focus Sash on Aerodactyl, and Kingambit will go for the Sucker Punch into the Annihilate. Will this do enough? It does! Annihilate is knocked out of the battle.
Aerodactyl does go for that Tailwind that I talked about earlier. This does mean that whatever's coming in is about to have a very, very substantial speed boost, and it's Primarina.
Ooh, the Primarina out now with that Liquid Voice, changing Hyper Voice from a normal type move into a water type, but it also has that Moon Blast, which is neutral into the Kingambit. Could probably do a good amount of damage, maybe get a 2-hit knockout, but you have to wonder where this Basculegion would want to target if it tries to go for an Aqua Jet into the Aerodactyl and pick up the knockout.
It is a tricky situation indeed, Talon, because there is not really any right answer here. He could choose to go for Aqua Jet with Basket Legion again and knock out this Aerodactyl, but doing so leaves him open to a Hyper Voice or really anything from Primarina. Remember, this thing does get quite a good amount of coverage.
Basket Legion goes for the Aqua Jet into the Aerodactyl, protects itself. Primarina goes for the Hyper Voice. It's not very effective, and Basket Legion survives. A critical hit, though, on King Gambit, doing big damage, but Ironhead will go into Primarina and do well over half, but that allows Primarina to recover with its Citrus Berry.
Very aggressive turn. Now, Basket Legion really is only going to probably be able to live one more Hyper Voice. King Gambit is not looking so hot right now. I would be very concerned about leaving King Gambit in currently.
Basket Legion is going to protect itself on this turn, try to avoid any damage as Aerodactyl goes for the Rock Slide into Basket Legion, protects itself, and it misses King Gambit. That's really big as Primarina goes for the Life Dew, healing up Primarina and King Gambit by 25%. And this Ironhead goes back into Primarina, doing well over 50 and bringing Primarina back into the yellow.
Very interesting. Primarina is not going to necessarily be able to out-heal this Ironhead chip, but being able to keep Aerodactyl healthy could be a good strategy here. If you can get Basket Legion out fast enough, then Aqua Jet, never mind. Yeah, never mind. The bird's down. Bird down.
Aqua Jet going into the Aerodactyl in the last turn of Tailwind, picks up the knockout, and because Aerodactyl is removed from the battlefield, that allows the Unnerve ability to act to be negated, and that allows Basket Legion to stack on its own Citrus Berry. But King Gambit will be knocked out by the Moon Blast from Primarina, and now Primarina and a fourth unrevealed Pokemon are all that remains for Ultimate in this game one, but Basket Legion just got a stage boost on its last respects and its Metagross.
Meanwhile, Mobstachu sending out Sneasler. Now, Sneasler, very powerful Pokemon here. One Poison type move is going to be enough to knock out Primarina. However, Metagross does have Psychic Fangs, and Sneasler does not appreciate that move at all.
You're absolutely right. That Psychic Fang's extremely effective into the Sneasler as Ultimate is going to activate the Metagross. Mega Metagross coming out on the field with that Tough Claws ability, boosting the power of its physical attacks. But let's see, a Sneasler goes for the Fake Out, but goes into Primarina. Big damage as Metagross goes for the Psychic Fangs. That is extremely effective and immediately brings Sneasler down to its Focus Sash.
Very strategic team. Basket Legion going for the last respects here. Not enough to knock out Metagross. It's still here. Primarina is just a sitting duck now. Metagross is on low HP. This might be Mobstachu's game.
It'll be interesting to see what Metagross tries to go for here against Mobstachu's two Pokemon. The Sneasler, it got brought down to its Focus Sash just now, so its Unburden ability has been activated. If you go for someone like a Bullet Punch, you would be the fastest Pokemon on the field with the priority, but this Metagross does not have Bullet Punch.
That is correct, and what's more, this Metagross might even be in range of an Aqua Jet from Basket Legion right now.
That is going to be interesting if the Basket Legion picks up the knockout into the Metagross, and that allows Sneasler to go for one Dire Claw into the Primarina. It appears as though Mobstachu, there's the Aqua Jet from the Basket Legion, picks up the Mega Metagross, and now here comes the Sneasler with that Dire Claw from Legends Arceus, super effective in a Primarina, picks up the knockout, and Mobstachu has won game one.
Very well played indeed, but this is only game one. There is still time for this to be turned around.
There is time for this to be turned around. That was a very great game by Mobstachu, getting that damage off into the Annihilate. And I really liked how both our trainers, they opted to go for the super effective Ghost type move immediately in that game one. The Annihilate locked into Rage Fist because of its Choice Scarf. And by going for the Drain Punch, you would have been locked into the Drain Punch, which would have been extremely effective into that King Gambit there, Highland. but you would have been able to do no damage into the Basculegion due to the Ghost type.
That is correct, Talon. Now, going into game 2 will be interesting to see if either side chooses to mix things up. Again, there is a Snow Core on Mobs to Choose side. However, Metagross simply existing might be enough to discourage either of these two mons being brought.
I think you're right on that, and it's also important to note that if the Snow Core were to come on Mobs to Choose side, even if it's just that Frost Ice with the Mega Evolution to get that Snow Warning ability up and guarantee the Blizzards will hit, you do have the Blizzards and Shadow Ball, which is good into the Metagross, and with no Bullet Punch, you're not as opposed to Metagross's Tough Claws ability as you normally would be.
That is true. This will be very interesting to see if either side chooses to mix things up here. There is also, of course, Garchomp that could very easily come in if Ultimate is relying on Metagross to dissuade the Snow Core from entering the field. Garchomp doesn't really have any reliable switch-in.
That is true. Garchomp, with the 2 Ice-type Pokemon and that Dragon-type in Dragonite, very interesting to see if Garchomp will come in this game number 2, Highland, as Primarina also was doing good damage into the King Gambit and the Basculegion, picking up that knockout with the Moonblast thanks to the Hyper Voice damage. But let's get into game number 2. Will Mobs to Choose move on to the top 16, or will Ultimate force a game 3? Let's get into game 2. Ultimate is going to lead with that Annihilate yet again, but switching it up with Metagross as the lead. And on the side of Mobs to Choose, it is the same lead running it back, Basculegion and King Gambit.
Very interesting turn of events to see Metagross in the lead for this game 1. Now, a turn 1 Mega Evolution for Metagross here would be solid. However, Metagross surprisingly does not do a whole lot of damage to either Basculegion or King Gambit. It might be in Ultimate's best interests to switch Metagross out into something else.
That is true, but we also have to remember that with this Metagross, it does not have a priority move. Therefore, King Gambit can go for that Sucker Punch into the Metagross and probably pick up the knockout. Meanwhile, if Annihilate tries to go for Drain Punch into the King Gambit, extremely effective, probably picks up the knockout. But we're going to see Metagross switch out here and reveal Sneasler as the 3rd Pokemon. And King Gambit tried to go for the Sucker Punch. It will fail, and this allows Annihilate to go for that Drain Punch. But
activating the Chople Berry.
Will this still pick up? No, it will not knock out the King Gambit. Extremely effective, though. And King Gambit brought low as Basculegion goes for the last respects again into Annihilate. Super effective and does big damage.
Now remember, this Annihilate, as you said, is Choice Scarfed, which means that King Gambit can just go for a guaranteed Sucker Punch here. However, Ultimate does have the ability to protect that by going for Fake Out with Sneasler.
That is true. The Sneasler can go for Fake Out normally, but this Sneasler does not have Fake Out. It has Upper Hand.
That's correct. Now, that being said, Upper Hand could accomplish the same goal here. The question is, what does the Basculegion do? Because if both Basculegion and King Gambit both double target this Annihilate, it is enough to bring it down regardless of the situation. Which is why Ultimate has very wisely swapped Annihilate out for Primarina here.
That's a good switch up, bringing Primarina, revealing it as the 4th Pokemon, as Sneasler tried to go for that Upper Hand, and it will fail. Basculegion gets to go for this last respects into the Primarina, doing a lot of damage and bringing Primarina almost to half. But now you have to wonder, if you go for that Sneasler again, can you go for a close combat into the King Gambit now, or do you go for something like a Dire Claw, predicting a switch out from the King Gambit?
That is a very excellent question, and frankly, both outcomes are very plausible here. There isn't really a right or wrong option for either side at the moment. This is going to be very difficult for either side to predict.
That is true, and King Gambit, though, gets the double protect. That is actually something huge for the King Gambit, as Sneasler did try to go for the close combat into the King Gambit, who protects himself, allows Basculegion to go for the Wave Crash into the Sneasler, boosted by adaptability. That's a one-hit knockout into the Sneasler.
Now, Sneasler no longer being here is very huge for King Gambit, which means King Gambit realistically only has to worry about Annihilate. You do still have to worry about those Liquid Voice Hyper Voices from Primarina, though. Do not underestimate those. They will do significant damage. That being said, King Gambit's in a pretty strong position right now to get some solid chip damage out on anything at once.
And Annihilate, we see that it's under 40% right now. I wonder if a Black Glasses boosted Sucker Punch from this King Gambit might... Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It was a Chopple Berry on the King Gambit. I wonder if Sucker Punch does enough. Let's see. Sucker Punch will come out, picks up the knockout into the Annihilate. Annihilate knocked out as Basket Legion gets to go for another Last Respects into the Primarina, brings it low and allows it to snack on that Citrus Berry.
That's correct. And Primarina is going for that Liquid Voice Hyper Voice, like we said earlier. And that is going to be enough to bring down King Gambit. What is Mobstachu going to bring out in response?
That's going to be an interesting decision, as we're going to be finally seeing Mobstachu's third Pokemon. Meanwhile, Ultimate is brought down to just his Primarina and Metagross, and it's Sneasler for Mobstachu.
Now, Sneasler, as we've established before, very good switch in against this Primarina. One good hit from Sneasler is really all that is needed for Primarina to go down. However, Metagross has that Psychic Fangs button. It could very easily bring Sneasler down to its Focus Sash. That might be exactly what Mobstachu wants, though, because as we've established, this Metagross has no priority, and if the Sneasler is brought down to its Sash Talon, you have Unburden active at that point. That would make the Sneasler the fastest thing on the field.
You're right there, Highland, but now we have to wonder, does the fake out go into the Metagross, because Last Respects has just been boosted to 100 base power and will be doing even more damage into the Metagross, who is now Mega Evolved in this game to Mega Metagross with that shiny Pokemon Shine.
That's correct. Metagross going for the Iron Head on Sneasler, not bringing it down to the Sash, though. Dire Claw is going to knock out Primarina.
That's a huge knockout in a Primarina, and now the Basket Legion with 100 base power, Last Respects, adaptability boosted, but Metagross survives.
Now, despite Metagross surviving, this is tricky. This is Metagross against the world. One Aqua Jet from Basket Legion is enough to just give Mobstachu the win here.
I think you're right here. That Aqua Jet priority helping out Mobstachu in this final turn of game number 2. One final Aqua Jet or any attack from the Sneasler, if it can be faster than this Metagross. As we just saw, though, the Sneasler does not have Unburden activated, and therefore Metagross is faster than Sneasler.
Nope, sure enough, that is a forfeit. Ultimate knew that there was no coming back from this. One Aqua Jet is all that was needed. Mobstachu has won the set.
Congratulations to Mobstachu on a phenomenal 2-0 victory over Ultimate, and they have now moved on to the top 16. We'll be facing off against Selvaria with a shot at the top 8 on the line.
That is correct, and this does also mean that, for the most part, we have our round 2 bracket finalized. The only thing that's really in contention at this point is figuring out who is up against Roaming Cookie. All of the other matchups have been locked in.
That is true. All that remains is Homie versus Pendlin. The winner of that plays Roaming Cookie, but we can now officially congratulate our top 16 matchups. Daniel versus LKS3, Genesis versus Vanilla, Selvaria versus Mobstachu, Luke versus MJ Rogers, Fur Jesus versus Hyperlink, Niem versus Obi3, and Kalars versus Diet Type.
This is a very strong roster going in to the next round. So I hope you all are very much looking forward to that as we wrap things up here. Thank you so much for tuning in to week 3 of the Draco Cup. We will see you guys for week 4, which will be the last week commentated by me, because at that point afterward we will be moving into top 8 onward, which will be on Joey Pokeaim MD's channels. However, that will not be the last you see of Talon. He will be here throughout the entire time.
Yes, I will. And I am excited to see what our top 16 matchups will bring. And congratulations again to all of our competitors in this Draco Cup. But for our 16 trainers that are moving on, you are one step closer to calling yourselves the inaugural Draco Cup champion.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys next weekend for the final round of pre-top 8 brackets. I hope you guys are looking forward to it as much as we are. See you guys next week.